What's up, Womack Nostalgia? Dave here in their podcast. What's going on in pop culture right now? A lot of stuff I want to get into this week. Chief among them is Ryan Coogler's new film Sinners, which is excellent. A lot to talk about with that one. Well, we also have the conclusion of Marvel's Daredevil Born Again Season 1. On the music front, we have a new album from the Underachievers, Kai, and TWS, and I also saw Denzel Curry in concert. So make sure you subscribe, youtube.com/nostalgiapod, linktree.com/nostalgiapod, see links below. Get the best of 2025 Spotify playlist linked below. Let me know it's good, and let's get into it. What's up, Womack Nostalgia? Dave here with a concert review of Denzel Curry's Mischievous South tour. I was lucky enough to see Denzel Curry in Boston at Roadrunner. Kenny Mason and 454 opened up. And yeah, I was super excited to see Denzel Curry live. He actually was at the top of my list for rappers that I've never seen before that I've wanted to see live. And he's been at the top for quite some time. Last time he headlined, I was away, so I couldn't see him. Remember before that, he actually opened up as an opener for Billie Eilish. So I just kind of missed some of his tours. And I obviously been a fan of Denzel for a long time now at this point. You think about when I first started listening to Denzel Curry, it was probably 2015 or so, right? Imperial era, when Ultimate actually came out. It's been a long time, and I've been a fan for such a long time. And obviously everyone knows how great he is, and I was super excited to see what that would translate to live. And not that I was surprised, but man, Denzel Curry is so sick live because he's so energetic. I think what's so cool about him live too is he is very theatrical as a performer. He has a voice. He's so good at yelling and shouting and hyping up the crowd and just kind of exuding that energy, I think, in a really contagious way. And the way his voice just kind of booms and bellows as he performs and he interacts with the crowd. It's just really fun. In terms of the set list, I would say it's probably skews a bit more towards the recent stuff, and there's some omissions, I guess. Think about the story. It was largely very high energy, right? So he doesn't perform a song like X-Wing, right, which was probably the most popular of his journey down the melodic side of things with Melt My Eyes, a few projects ago. He doesn't really do that much live. He really kind of sticks to the energy stuff, but it's more the recent projects, right? So I was a bit disappointed to not hear Naughty Head live, one of my favorite songs from his. He doesn't do that. He doesn't do Speedboat off Zoo, but think about the songs he does do. He does Ricky, Walkin', G's Up, his Go-To feature, the Armani White song. He does his, freestyle cover of Kendrick Lamar's TV Off Diet, which is fucking incredible live. He does Sumo. He does Sked with Kenny Mason, brings out Kenny. He also does another late night with 454, which I think that was really cool. How he brought it back out the openers, which was fun. He does ULT. He does Hot One, and I know when he did it, he just did it in New York. Actually ASAP Ferg and T. Corinne were there. Obviously, that wasn't the case here in Boston. I think about the recent Denzel hits. I haven't probably gravitated towards them as much as some of his earlier stuff. That's okay. I think just such a fun show. I think the energy was so high. People were hyped there. There was tons of moshing. There was actually a fight during the Kenny Mason set, which is hilarious, right in front of me. It was really cool. People really knew the words too. Hearing people rap ULT, that was pretty sick. People rapped the TV Off cover. People knew the words, which was sick. I will say this was one of the most guy-heavy rap shows I've ever been to. Most rap concerts lean guys, unless you're talking someone who's more commercial and broad like Drake. Most rap shows lean guys. But this had to be 95%, to be honest, which was just kind of funny to see. I gotta say though, the ending of the set, really sick. Obviously, he does Still in the Paint, Waka Flocka pseudo cover, which I think is just a really cool song. Shout out Waka Flocka, very important artist that people might forget from time to time, but Hard in the Paint, seminal. So Denzel makes a lot of sense starting to cover a song like that, and he does a great live. Then he goes into Ultimate, and then he does a very quick encore type song with Kyle Cobain. So those are three of his best songs right there to end it. Ultimate live, the crowd's going apeshit for that one, just bouncing around, really fun. So yeah, really happy I saw Denzel at last. See him at a small venue, get close, general admissions, the way you want to do it when you see someone like him. So stoked. And now, who is the rapper I want to see most live now that Denzel has been seen. I think it's probably like Skepta, to be honest, and I think a lot of British guys are probably towards the top of my list now because I haven't seen many of them. So I'd probably say like Skepta and like Heady One, AJ Tracy, like those are the guys I really want to see the most now that I haven't seen. But yeah, shout out Denzel Curry. Also shout out Kenny Mason. I thought his set was pretty fun. He does good medley of most of his songs. Most of his he does probably like the first verse a lot of times, doesn't really finish a lot of the tracks, but his energy was high. I thought the Dreamville cover, the I Got a New Stick song, people lost their minds to that one. Honestly, people were really vibing with him. And 454, who I'm not super familiar with, but he also did a pretty good job for someone who's more of a melodic guy, more of an auto-tuning guy. Speaking to that, Kenny Mason, using the auto-tune mic from time to time, though he did a pretty good job with it just because he knows how to keep energy. He's a bit more experienced at this point. Kind of reminds me of like Prime Migos, where like Quavo would use auto-tune mic all the time, but like still doing his songs as if he wasn't auto-tuned, so like the energy remains. So it was fun. This is a great tour. People should see this one. Pretty loaded. It's fun when you have like real openers like as part of the tour. So as a result, like Denzel doesn't come out till like 10 p.m. because it's like a fully stacked show. So it's like 3 hours. It's great. So yeah, shout out Denzel Curry, man. Looking forward to his next project. I thought Kings of the Mischievous South Volume 2, reviewed that one. Thought it was okay. Not my favorite stuff from him. But I mean, Denzel Curry has a high floor as a rapper just because he's so technical and also so fun because he has such limitless energy, it seems. So yeah, big fan of Denzel Curry. I enjoyed the King of the South tour he's done, King of the Mischievous South tour. But yeah, if you've seen him, let me know what you thought. And for more rap reviews, more concert reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. What's up, Wallback Nostalgia? Dave here with a review of Kai's fourth mini album, fourth EP, Wait on Me. Kai, of course, one of the most famous and well-established soloists from EXO, has returned from his military service with his latest solo project. And Kai's last time around, a little over 2 years ago in 2023, was Rover, which was the biggest hit of his solo career, one of the biggest K-pop songs of 2023 straight up. So of course there was a lot of anticipation for his return, Wait on Me, as Kai and most of EXO really enter, or I guess continue at this point, their second act as a group and as entertainers, with the group obviously well past its 10-year anniversary at this point. I was quite let down by Kai's fourth mini album, Wait on Me. This album is very moody and vibey, but also is vocally very understated and also uninteresting, unspectacular melodically. Kai was clearly going for something more smooth and more emotional, but it doesn't really get super deep on any of those emotions. So to me, it just comes across as a bit blah. There's nothing as big or flashy as Rover from his last project, and there's nothing truly transcendent about any of the more moody, understated stuff on this project, so I just don't find a lot of this super revisitable. And in general, I just find most of these choruses pretty poor, pretty average at best. I mean, there's just really nothing that's super sticky about this project. I think the title track, Wait on Me in particular, has a pretty weak hook with a mad chorus, and even Kai's singing, I mean, I feel like sometimes the vocal mix is just a bit off. He just doesn't really pop on his own music this time around. And with the track Wait on Me, at least you get a little bit of like some interesting vocal range on verse 2, but like he's so restrained and reined in on most of this project. Walls Don't Talk, probably one of the better songs here. I think the beat's pretty solid with that bass drum, kind of like a vibey like night ride type song. The kind of spoken outro though is like super quiet. I don't know. This is another one that's like it's fine, but like it doesn't really grab you too much. Pressure, I thought the production was a bit stronger, kind of like that island vibe. I like the way the beat drops going into the outro. I think the hook is okay, but again, nothing special to me. Riding, I think this is probably the most egregious of the songs when it comes to the vocal mix. Kai is simply just too quiet on this song. It just doesn't grab you. He doesn't stand out on this one. Off and Away, I thought this one was fine. The fast tempo drums are nice. The chimes, a nice touch specifically. It's okay. Adult Swim, this was, I believe, the lead single, the pre-release single. And this one's fine. I think the vocals are probably the strongest on all the tracks on this one, at least. But still, it's pretty understated. It's still pretty quiet, all things considered. And then, Flight to Paris, again, more of the same. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I was expecting something different, I guess. Clearly this was his intention, to do something a bit more somber, a bit quieter. But like, if you're going to do something like that, I think the vocal melodies need to be there, and they just weren't this time around. So like, even if some of these beats are fine, solid foundation, there's just really nothing else interesting about the songs, whether it's the structures or the way the vocals are presented. So yeah, pretty disappointed in this one. There's been a lot of good solos this year with K-pop. We've talked about a bunch of them recently, but this is not on that level at all. This is certainly towards the bottom of what I've heard so far this year, unfortunately. Let me know what you think of Kai's fourth mini album, Wait on Me. Did you like it more than me? If so, please let me know why. And for more music reviews, more K-pop reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. What's up, Womack Nostalgia? Dave here with a review of TWS's third mini album, Try With Us. TWS, this is my first time talking about them. They're a new group on Pledis Entertainment. Of course, Pledis Entertainment is a Hybe subsidiary that's still independent, famously the label of 17 and the former label of Promise 9. TWS is now their second male group, and they debuted last year at the beginning of the year, gave us 2 EPs. And, I think they got a lot of like critical love as far as, group debuts go. That single Plot Twist in particular got a lot of attention. And now they're back with their third project, Try With Us, was a year and a few months into their run here. TWS has established a strong foundation with their third mini album, Try With Us. I don't think this group is yet super exciting in terms of the songs they've put out thus far, but I think the qualities of what their music is very appealing thus far. Simply put, the TWS sound is very energetic, it's very upbeat, it's very boppy, and I think that's just what we want right now, right? I think it's fun, light music, and they seem to be slowly settling into that sound in terms of their identity as a very pop-forward K-pop group. Of the 6 new songs, I thought Now Playing was certainly the strongest, very melodic, fun beat, and just the catchiest of all their songs on the project. But I think the general floor for this group is pretty solid, just because I think the production is very tight and it's very focused on what this group's trying to do. Not too much hip hop on here, not too much balladry. It's all pretty light, fun stuff, and I think it's kind of perfect for like summer releases. So what the ceiling of TWS is and whether they really like transcend and establish a strong fan base, I think that's all still remains to be seen. But I have liked what I've heard thus far and will continue to pay attention. Lucky to Be Loved, the first track, I think that hook's a bit repetitive, but again, the song was just so upbeat and so poppy that I'm kind of willing to forgive that. And in general, like, the melodies are quite tight on most of their music thus far across these 3 releases. So, I think, again, like, they're just easy to like and enjoy, even if maybe some of the songs aren't striving to be like super impressive, I guess you could say. Sometimes just good enough is okay. Countdown, I love the way the drums and guitar are hitting together, and in general with their production, there's a decent amount of electric guitar kind of sprinkled in. I think it's in a really nice complementary fashion. And this is one of the rare songs that does have hip hop on it, and I think that rap actually does fit the song pretty solidly in that second verse. Random Play, again, another song with a bunch of guitar. I think it's vocally, like, it's very light, it's very quick. Freestyle, this one starts off as you think, oh, this is the hip hop track, right, as the title might suggest, and there's a good amount of rapping on here, but it kind of switches up a little bit. I think the drums are pretty cool. The hook didn't do a lot for me, though, to be honest. I mentioned Now Playing, that's my favorite of the bunch. And then last but not least, you have Go Back, which is also very energetic. I think a little funky. Maybe that's a lane that they might go down in terms of their production and their sound in the future. We'll see. I like the cadence, the singing cadence on the bridge specifically, and another good chorus like most of their songs. So yeah, TWS, again, we'll see what happens with them. I mean, it's not worth comparing them to 17 at this point. They're obviously so new in their career, and 17 is so established, doesn't really serve much to compare them to. I'm also curious, like, what's going to go on with Pledis. I mean, there was a lot of controversy with Promise 9, which left the label, and of course all their fans were not happy with how their career was going and how they were being managed when they were on the label. So that was certainly a negative development, right? And as a result, Pledis has kind of been the 17 show, and that's about it. So we'll see if TWS gets the necessary resources to exist, and in terms of like what is that Hybe relationship with Pledis, I don't really understand how that works all that much in terms of whether they get extra support or Hybe is purely just a financial stakeholder in the company and just gets the profit off them, and that they leave it at that. We'll see. But I do think they stand out creatively. They're not kind of in the monotonous Hybe sound that we sometimes hear. So that's a positive thus far. Let me know, though, what did you think of TWS's third mini album, Try With Us? What was your favorite song? What do you want to hear from them next? And for more music reviews, more K-pop reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. What's up, Womack Nostalgia? Dave here with a review of the Underachievers' new album, Homecoming. The Underachievers rap duo, Issa Gold, aka The Savior, Brooklyn, New York's finest. The Underachievers, they've been away for about 5 years or so as a duo. There's been some solo music from them, more from AK. Some of that's on streaming, some of that's on SoundCloud. They've been around, but really it's been quiet for the Underachievers since 2019. Their last project was The Lords of Flatbush 3, that mixtape, and Homecoming, I'm not even sure. Is this an album? Is this a mixtape? It's pretty short. It's under 30 minutes, but they're back. And after, again, the last time they were around was 2019. We're talking like their last project, their work with the Beast Coast for the Beast Coast album. It's been a minute, and I've been a big fan of the Underachievers ever since they came out. I mean, shit, at this point I've been listening to them for like 12 years or so. Herb Shuttles, was that 2013? It's been a long time, right? And I've seen them live twice, 2017 in Boston. I saw them on part of the Beast Coast tour. Big fan. I think the core appeal of the Underachievers has not really changed. They're just a really energetic rap duo when they go hard with their music, but they also have this more ethereal, vibey side to them. They haven't really gotten as large as the Beast Coast contemporaries, right? Obviously, Joey Badass's profile has grown quite a bit. The Flatbush Zombies as well have been really established with a really large, loyal fan base at this point. Underachievers, though, a little bit more under the radar, but man, I'll just always ride for all of that Beast Coast crew, because when I think back on when they came up, right, and I remember it so vividly, the online excitement about the Underachievers when their first mixtape Indigoism comes out. People are like, yo, you gotta hear Herb Shuttles, you gotta hear Gold Soul Theory. These guys got next, and they did. And then did they ever blow up in a mainstream sense? No, not really, but they were internet rap gold for a long time. And I just think about that time in hip hop when you had all of the Beast Coast acts rising up, people affiliated with them, like an ASAP Mob, like Action Bronson, right? New York was so hot and so great, rap wise, with all those new faces back then. Then kind of on the same side of things, on the other side of the country, LA, TDE with all the black hippie guys, of course, Kendrick, Schoolboy, J-Rock, Absol. You had that happening. Again, you had the same thing happening with Odd Future, with Tyler and Earl. Man, what a time that was for rap. I thought the Underachievers, again, maybe not the most famous of anyone popping at that time, but big fan of them, right? And they've always given you a handful of bangers every project. Primarily, what I've always gravitated towards from them, whether it's a Take Your Place, Packs, Play That Way, Crescendo, just go through the projects. They got some hits, and I mean that's what makes them so great live, just because it's just banger after banger after banger. And yet, I think from a project standpoint, the Underachievers have maybe been a little bit different than that, right? It's they'll still give you some bangers, but they've clearly, grown up and experienced a lot of life as they've been rapping for over 10 years at this point, and they speak about those experiences and getting older a little bit. The Underachievers' latest album, Homecoming, does a great job of showcasing the growth that these two guys have gone through as men. Is this album as energetic and fast-paced as some of their most popular songs? No, it's not, to be honest. The music certainly got more vibey, more jazzy, and not that they haven't done stuff like that before, but back then it was, I think, more of a druggy vibe, right? They actually talk more about kind of moving beyond that on a song like Vices. But when Issa Gold and aka The Savior turn it up a little bit, when that bass gets a little heavier, when the flow gets a little harder, they still got it and they can still bring it. And I think on a song like Brand New, on a song like Wisher, which almost has some drill production to it, these guys can still spit, man, and I'm a big fan of them. I'll always be a big fan of them. I definitely prefer it when the energy is high, and I know, of course, they always will deliver that when they perform. Some of the more storytelling songs, they're certainly cool and well made, but they're just not the types of songs I always want to go back to from UA because I love the high end bangers that they can make so well. I will say though, my biggest criticism of all of this is the album cover. I mean, you have these two dudes rocking Los Angeles gear. AK's wearing a Lakers jacket and Issa's got like LA Dodgers stuff on. I mean, what the fuck, man? These guys are supposed to rep New York. They're supposed to rep Beast Coast. I can't support that. I cannot condone that at all. That being said, yeah, man, I'm just happy they're back. I hope they go on tour. They've only announced a few shows. Like, I hope they go on tour beyond like New York and LA, which is what they have right now. They haven't done their own like headlining tour, I believe, since I last saw them in 17. After that it was the Beast Coast tour, and then there's been like nothing consistent, since then. So we'd love to see them. They're fucking sick in a small venue, so I can hope. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the songs themselves, I mean, I mentioned Vices. I think that the jazzy trumpets on that with that drum kit sounds really cool, and talking about like aging and addiction, or at least addiction as a concept. I'm not really saying that they were ever addicted to anything, but it sounds pretty cool. I like the song chorus on it. Brand New, I think, is one of my favorites. I think AK's flow got a little faster on that one and sounds really good. I think the bass hits really hard. Wisher, I think that's more of an Issa song, but AK comes in, he's super hard again. I love the way the beat pitches down at the end of the song. Megatron, jazzy again, got some like flute and tambourine and twinkly keys. Sweepers, bass gets hard here once again. I think Issa almost giving like a deeper voice with this one, and then I think AK's flow actually is like super crazy on this. In general, I actually think it's like one of AK's best Underachievers projects in a while. And I think Issa has kind of grabbed the spotlight in many respects in the last handful of years with their music, but I think AK did great on this. And again, they both always like have a high floor with their music because they're such capable rappers. But I was pretty impressed with AK on this, to be honest. So yeah, Underachievers, Homecoming. I mean, will I revisit this as much as their older stuff? No, of course I won't. But like, I'm just happy it's here, and I think there's some good stuff on here, stuff that I think will be revisited. And I think if I think about the Underachievers, like their catalog, which is quite vast at this point between all their albums and mixtapes, you always grab a song or two from each project, and you put them all together, and that's a lot of great songs. And I think we'll take a few from this and keep adding it to that pot. But let me know, what'd you think of the Underachievers' latest album, Homecoming? What'd you like most about it? And for more rap reviews, more music reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. What's up, Womack Nostalgia? Dave here with a review of Marvel's Daredevil Born Again Season 1, out in full on Disney+. We know Daredevil Born Again will be back for a second season and was envisioned as an 18-episode season. So this conclusion of Season 1, this Season 1 finale, is very much acting as a middle point. I was not particularly impressed with Daredevil Born Again, but Season 1 did improve as it went on. The show got more consistent with its priorities, and I think the conflicting creative visions will hopefully cease with Season 2. As the season progressed, Mayor Fisk's descent back into Kingpin, now in full control of New York, was done pretty well. As a villain, the character is certainly working. They tease you with just enough Punisher in this season. But Heather was certainly the weakest love interest that Matt has had throughout the run of Daredevil. A choppy season, but I think thematically it really started to focus by the end, and I think Season 2 has a good opportunity, and that's not something we said about a lot of MCU Disney Plus series lately, so I guess we'll take it even if that's inherently a low bar. It's really a shame that the Matt Heather stuff just doesn't work at all. I really enjoy Margarita LaViva. I thought she was tremendous on HBO's The Deuce after several seasons. Of course, she got to play like a real character with substance and an actual arc on that show. Heather Glenn on Daredevil Born Again barely has any purpose on the show, and it's like one of those unfortunate things where that character is like so like at odds with Matt Murdock, and they don't have any chemistry at all. And the lack of communication, the fact that she doesn't know Matt's identity, just makes for this conflict that's just not enjoyable to sit with as a viewer. And yeah, it's just pretty frustrating as that character dynamic just spins its wheels over the course of the season. I thought everything with the villain Muse really sucked, to be honest. Like that was a character that was introduced like so quickly and then also resolved so quickly, and because the connection to Matt truly was like Heather, it just doesn't hit as well as you want it to hit because you're not as invested in that relationship already. So that stuff just doesn't really work to me. John Bernthal is back as the Punisher, really just in 2 episodes. One in the beginning, like was it, episode 3 or 4, and then in the finale when you actually get to see him be the Punisher and crack some skulls. And I think it makes sense the way they brought him back. Obviously, John Bernthal in the role makes a lot of sense to keep that star power, bring that into the MCU proper, like the rest of this Daredevil universe, as it began on Netflix. But the introduction of Fisk's vigilante task force and his increasing corruption and subversion of the law, obviously that's in direct conflict with the Punisher because all those guys are using the Punisher as inspiration, have his symbol as a tattoo and stuff, even though it doesn't actually support his values and ideals as the most violent vigilante of them all. So I think that made a good amount of sense. Is it a bit annoying that he got himself captured at the end in kind of a dumb way? Sure, but we know he's going to break out, and we know they're going to do that special presentation around the Punisher, which I think is going to be very exciting, and I'm super looking forward to that for sure. I'll say I actually enjoyed the like lawyering procedural stuff in the beginning of the season. That's clearly like where the creative conflict was with this show, where it was originally envisioned as much less of a Daredevil show and much more of a Matt Murdock show. In the beginning, you get stuff with the firm and his colleagues, and also the White Tiger stuff. And obviously, the White Tiger suddenly gets the short shrift as a character, getting off the way he does. But I kind of enjoyed like that early stuff, especially as it relates to the Matt's growing beef with the vigilantes when they're less formalized and more so just crooked cops and whatnot. You also get that dynamic with the police commissioner who doesn't agree with Wilson Fisk as he struggles to keep hold of the situation. And the show also gives us that one-off episode with the bank robbery, which, I mean, to some people, yeah, that's like a filler episode, but to me, that's kind of like, that's what TV is supposed to be about, is like stuff like that's not purely serialized. And you get that fun cameo with Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel's dad, as one of the bankers in the episode. So like solid, kind of fun, I guess, for what it was. I didn't mind it. I also thought Michael Gandolfini as Daniel, one of Fisk's cronies, was really good. Honestly, Daniel's really willingness to bend the rules and suck up to Fisk and do his bidding, basically, and how he relates to his friend in quotes, BB Urich, the young journalist. Some good stuff there, and then you have Sheila, who's the more seasoned political operator, also working under Fisk's thumb, and you always feel like she's just about to get Fisk's ire, and then at the very end, she betrays the police commissioner. Some good stuff, I just think like it was just kind of messy, and season 2, I think, sets us up in an interesting place in terms of, all hope seems lost, martial law declared on the city, open, corruption here and there, the vigilantes are running the asylum, all that kind of stuff. And one thing, I guess, this is taking place in the MCU, like, surely this kind of stuff would attract the attention of other heroes in the universe. Yes. I'm not sure if that's ever really going to manifest. Like, would season 2 bring in Miss Marvel? She's fucking in Jersey, technically, right? But Miss Marvel would make quick work of Kingpin, if she wanted to. Obviously, this is a common thing with comic storytelling, whether it's on the page or on screen, that you kind of have to just let that kind of stuff lie where it may. It's not really worth dissecting those plot holes, so I'm not really too worked up about it. But Bernthal's Punisher, Cox's Daredevil, fun portrayals. I enjoy the presence. We got Karen coming back at the very end after not being in the season at all. Maybe she'll be in Born Again season 2 a lot more. Obviously, Foggy's gone, so we'll see. Bullseye, for that matter, still at large. I thought they were kind of offing him in the beginning of the season, but no, he's still technically around, I guess. But yeah, Born Again season 1, okay. It turns out they're filming season 2 right now. It's just so funny, like how this show, where it started, they're gonna film the whole thing back to back, and then the creative problems derailed it to such a degree that they're just now starting season 2. But there's also hope in that regard because season 2 will have a traditional showrunner from the start. Again, Marvel finally creating TV in the normal way, which is not what they had been doing all this time until very recently. So optimistic, I guess, but we'll see. I think on one hand too, like the success or failure of Daredevil Born Again as a proposition. Also, I feel like you don't give the MCU total credit for this. It's kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 being successful recently. We're like, oh, well, that doesn't mean the MCU is back because that's like a legacy thing. That's like a James Gunn thing, right? Daredevil, that's kind of a legacy thing. Deadpool and Wolverine, bringing back all the Fox people, definitely a legacy thing, right? So this is still kind of existing in like a pseudo proto like nostalgia frame, given how old these portrayals are. So all that's to say, I'm optimistic, but it's best not to read too much into what Daredevil ends up accomplishing at the end of the day. But yeah, let me know, what you think of Daredevil Born Again? I was both unimpressed and also entertained at the same time in a weird way. So let me know, how did you feel about this season? Do you agree that it ended better than it started? Let me know. And for more TV reviews, subscribe. I'll see you next time. What's up, welcome back to Nostalgia. Dave here with a review of Sinners, the new film from Ryan Coogler starring Michael B. Jordan. Coogler back. This is his first film since Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and really Coogler's first completely original film. Of course, his breakout feature, Fruitvale Station, was based on true events, and then, of course, Creed, Black Panther became really one of the signature commercial filmmakers that still brings a lot of ideas and intelligence to big, broad, wide appealing fare. And now here we are with Sinners, once again featuring Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. has been in every Coogler movie to this point. Man, this is just such an exciting film because this film freaking rules across the board and is really exactly what we always say we want and need in terms of filmmaking. Ryan Coogler's Sinners is incredible and the best film of the year without question. It's exactly what we always ask for because it's so cram full of ideas and thoughts and intelligence, yet also so incredibly crowd pleasing. It's a period film about the Black experience during that time, revolving a lot of sharecroppers. It's very concerned about the musical culture of the Delta at that time, and it approaches music in a way I was not expecting with a lot of depth. And it's also a really well done vampire movie. Michael B. Jordan is great in a dual role, playing the Smokestack twins, giving both characters just enough of a difference to really feel like two distinct people. Jack O'Connell also leaps off the screen as the villain vampire Remnick, probably the best he's ever been. And yeah, this is really what we always say about Coogler's strengths, because it's a movie that has so much going on and is also so incredibly watchable and entertaining at the same time. I also love the way it gets into being a vampire movie because the first 40 minutes or so of this movie is all prelude, all set up as the Smokestack twins have returned to the Delta, returned to Mississippi in 1932 after leaving town, fighting in World War One, and then making a name for themselves up in Chicago, assumingly through some extra legal means, where we think bootlegging and stuff. And they've come back to town and have decided to start a juke joint after buying a empty like farmhouse, like barn type structure from a wealthy white man. And of course, this area that they're returning to, it's primarily lots of Black folks living on sharecropping plantations. Of course, slavery is decades old, gone at this point, but this is still very much Jim Crow, Deep South, still very impoverished, not a wealthy area, and of course not a economic system set up to let these people succeed. That first 40 minutes in Sinners, as the two twins split up and get to doing their checklist, getting stuff ready for this grand opening they're planning, where they're gonna have live music, serve food, serve booze, inviting all the folks that they know back home to come and have a good time. And I think the movie communicates a lot. And the script is excellent. Of course, Coogler also wrote the movie. Like, it tells you like just a lot, doesn't hold your hand. There's nothing really expository about the way you get a lot of like story backfilled in as they go. You learn about Stack's relationship with Haley Steinfeld's character Mary, who is now herself married. We come to meet Smoke's ex-lover Annie, who they lost a child together. Annie played by Wunmi Masaku. And of course, we also meet from the very beginning. He's actually kind of our lead character, POV character in a certain sense. That would be a preacher boy, Sammy, played by Miles Catton. And Miles Catton, Caton. This is Miles' first film role, his debut, and I thought he was tremendous. Really leaps off the screen, and he plays like a blues singer, like a guitar singer, like gifted person, musically. And I mean, man, like the strength, the depth to his singing voice as a blues performer, really impressive. And that like really brings itself into the movie. Like there's this really standout sequence in the film that, I mean, everyone's talking about it. It's kind of like when you see it type thing, where the movie gets, I think, really existential with the meaning of music and what it does with whole community and stuff. And this really, you know, dabbles with time and space a little bit that the rest of the movie doesn't really do too much. And it's really standout, like grabs you type scene. Tremendous stuff. And I love like the world building, so to speak. This movie was filmed in Louisiana, close to where it's taking place, and I just like that town when they're like shopping and stuff. It comes across as authentic, and we've always talked about Coogler as an authentic voice, and even Michael B. Jordan, someone who, as a performer, I think is a really dedicated person. From everything we see from him, both as a upstart director and also a physical performer, as we've seen in Creed and things like that. And of course, Michael B. I think most people would settle in that Michael B. very good actor, great movie star. But sometimes maybe his acting abilities, we touch the ceiling depending on the role. But I mean, I think he's great as the Smokestack Twins. I think he does such a good job. I mean, he's such presence and charisma, obviously, that just oozes out of him. And I thought he did a great job with both characters, who are, I think, quite different. Stack has a lot of quick triggerness to him. He's a bit more of a risk taker and things like that. And Smoke is a bit more reserved and damaged, you could say. And again, this is all backfilled and told to us in intelligent ways as we go. Delroy Lindo is here as a obviously older person in the community who plays a harmonica primarily for money, but also has a drinking problem. And Delroy, I mean, what more can you say about him? Such a established legend at this point, and he's great in the movie. He's awesome. But like, man, like I think that all that setup, right? It's like, on one hand, like you have there's a underlying tension. Even the movie isn't really scary. You're waiting for something bad to happen, right? Two guys coming back to Jim Crow South, two black guys with a lot of money, buying something from a wealthy white man who calls them boy, like 20 seconds into the movie, right? You're expecting bad stuff to happen just because that's what happened back then, and then they talk about lynching and Jim Crow right away. They don't shy away from any of that kind of stuff. It's a Coogler movie after all. But then, like, we switch it up and we encounter Remnick, Jack O'Connell's character, and he's fleeing these Choctaw Native Americans. And we quickly learn that he is, in fact, a vampire of unknown Asian origin. And he's desiring to spread his flock. And he does that quite quickly. And he shows up eventually at the juke joint. And there's so much, great stuff in the juke joint scenes, right? And, like, once like they show up, I mean, like the movie like turns in like such an awesome way, because I think what's so cool about it is like it doesn't like really hide much from you in terms of like what's happening with the vampire stuff. It's not like a jump scare, like we're trying to scare the shit out of you type movie. I didn't find that scary as someone who's not usually a horror person at all. I don't really view this as like a horror movie like that. I think maybe because it's like there's so much to think about as you're watching it that like I wasn't really too worried about being scared by the vampires or anything like that. But like once like people start getting picked off, and then the rest of the characters who are still with the living realize what's going on. Like there's like the Mexican standoff, and you understand that they can't come into the house until they're invited. I think the movie just explodes. It's just like a complete firecracker, like pace-wise at that point. And there's such an awesome like juxtaposition of the early music scene that's like so transcendent, because you see the opposite of it with all the vampires kind of gathering outside as Remnick does like an Irish like folk song, and they're like dancing in circles and stuff, and it's like the other side of things. And of course, depending, as the movie progresses and certain characters we've come to know become vampires, really fun performances from them, as it's completely different. And man, I mean, I think the movie is like honestly, just such a knockout. I mean, I really had no complaints about it. I just thought it moved so well, but like it had like so much to it, and has so much satisfying payoff as you watch it as well. With their characters sacrificing themselves, just fun moments. I mean, there's a decent amount of laughs as well for a movie that is handling a bit of heavy subject matter for the most part. I mean, I think the movie is kind of incredible. In terms of how this movie, came to be. I mean, Warner Brothers reportedly like outbid everyone to get this movie. Right, this was a package, from Coogler. Obviously with Michael B. attached from the beginning, and Coogler got a pretty good, deal with this. He has first dollar gross on the box office returns. He also has the copyright returning to him after 25 years, quite uncommon. And reportedly the movie went a little over the budget, went from 90 to like 105 million or so. Again, reportedly Coogler might have given back some of his fee as a result of that. But either way, I mean, getting the copyright back eventually, pretty legendary. And yeah, it sounds like the movie's going to do pretty well, because the critical reviews are off the charts. The audience exits are very strong. Word of mouth is going to help this movie. Even if it doesn't take down Minecraft anytime soon, it's going to be a massive film, I hope. Be curious about the international box office, which maybe won't be quite as strong as it is here in the States, but I have a feeling this movie's going to end up going down as a success. And that's awesome, because I think this is exactly the type of thing that you want to work, because it's a movie that has so much to it, so multifaceted, and also so crowd-pleasing, entertaining from the time. And of course, the craft is great, the acting, the screenplay, the production values, like it's all there, And this is what we asked for. This is what we want. It's awesome. So shout out Sinners, banger movie, no question. Let me know what was your favorite moment of the film, what you like most about it. And for more movie reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time. All right, that's going to do for the pod this week. Next week, we're going to talk about The Accountant 2, Gareth Evans' new action film Havoc with Tom Hardy, the new A24, animated fantasy film The Legend of Ochi, of course, Star Wars Andor Season 2, very exciting. And we're going to be making our XXL Freshman 2025 predictions at last. So make sure you subscribe. YouTube.com/nostalgiapod, Linktree.com/nostalgiapod. See links below. Get the best of 2025 Spotify post link below. And I'll see you next week.